Okay, everybody, here we go. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shehakol ne'edvarei. L'chaim. All right, we are holding towards the end of chapter 7. And the Alter Rebbe is talking about over here energy invested for something that is pleasurable to you and not necessarily productive. Now, this energy can be elevated if the teshuvah is done properly. Now, there is a level we learned last week. There's a level of teshuvah that can only come when a person experiences distance or darkness. Only when a person feels a hurt in a relationship can you repair the relationship. So in a normal relationship, there's the pulling and the coming back. So too with a relationship with God. A tzaddik has no pulling apart. He's always trying to draw closer together. Now, ultimately, we're talking about God. You can never become fully attached because He's God. There's always going to be a degree of separation. Now, the Baal Teshuvah, the penitent man, he puts himself at a distance. He distances himself, and then he pulls himself back. Now, interesting. Just I thought by the holiday of Shmini Atzeret. Shmini Atzeret is the holiday comes after Sukkot. So it says, what's the reason for the holiday? There is no miracle that God did for us, or no one tried to kill us. It's a miracle just because God loves us. So in the words of the Gemara, the reason why the holiday exists, so God says, your departure is difficult for me. So stay one extra day. Though we spend Rosh Hashanah.
You said it was only supposed to be celebrated outside of Israel?
No. It's a biblical holiday. So we spend Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Sukkot with God. God says, you're hanging around so much. Your departure is difficult for me. Stay one more day. So I forgot which rabbi asked the question. Why does the Gemara say your departure? It's our departure, because usually after vacation, you go your way, I go my way. So it should say our departure. So the answer given is because God never distances himself from the Jewish people. We are the one that create that distance. So we're all caught up in the fervor of the high holidays. That the day after Sukkot comes, the rabbi calls up for minyan. It's like, whoa, rabbi, chill. Spend too much time in synagogue. I need a day for myself, right? So we're the ones that distance ourselves. That's the relationship of Baal Teshuvah, coming closer and distancing himself. Well, he should never distance himself, but it's that relationship that comes from the darkness, comes from the distance, comes from the separation he created that a tzaddik, a purely righteous man, can never experience. So now, what happens when you invest your energy in something that you shouldn't? Well, there's that you can't and you shouldn't. Can't means it's forbidden. Shouldn't means you're doing it the wrong way. Or to take it to another level, the Alter Rebbe said, what you shouldn't do, you're not allowed to do. And what you're allowed to do, you don't have to do. That's already a high level, right? So we're talking. So we got into here the vitality of zera levatala, wasteful emission of seed. That's where we got. We're holding on page 121 in the old print, probably 123 in the new print, where it says the 6th of Tevet. So the Alter Rebbe is giving an example of how do we do teshuvah, because there are certain times we do teshuvah for certain things. So he says, however, achayot, the vitality in the drops of zera, of seed, that one issued wastefully, although because a person did a sin. So anytime a person does a sin, the energy descends into the arena of impurity. So it elevates with the proper teshuvah, with kavana atzuma, and with tremendous kavana. Kriyas Shema Shalamita. It's interesting. There's a paragraph in Kriyas Shema right after the Shema. We say that King Solomon would go to bed with a double-edged sword. Double-edged sword, and with, it's, I think, 60 men surrounding his bed. So now, on the surface, it means that he was being protected. But Kabbalah explains that many times, where do we behave ourselves? We behave ourselves usually outside. When people are looking at us, we behave ourselves. Once we come home, then everybody I can do, I relax a little bit. Now in my bedroom, it's my business. I can do what I want. So where is the place that you're most susceptible to throw off the yoke of heaven, to think that God's not watching me? I can do what I want. God, you have no business here. In your bedroom. So that's why before we go to bed, we go to with a double-edged sword, meaning careful from both sides, to always be cognizant. So if a person does teshuvah in that part of his day, he's able to elevate his most selfish deed. And the Alter Rebbe continues. There's a reference to this in the Gemara. Murumaz the Gemara. It's hinted in the Gemara. It says, "Kol ha'kayer kriya shema al mitasei." Whoever recites Shemitah by his bed, ki'ilu ochez charbei sotei pipio. It's as if he holds a double-edged sword. What does that mean? Because remember last week we explained. Who remembers? What does it mean to teshuvah? What does it mean to do teshuvah? No, don't just give me a definition. We explain. How does teshuvah work? You guys are all. It's a short week. You have one less day to forget. Because remember, why do we sin? Why do we do something wrong? I'm not going to sin for you, right? Why won't I sin for you?
Why would you sin?
Why won't I?
Why won't you?
Yeah. Why do we sin? Why do we do things wrong? Because we want to feel good, right?
Right, yeah.
I'm not going to steal for you, I'll steal for me. Right? So what is teshuvah? Teshuvah means we suck out the pleasure, the geschmack in that act. When it's no longer perceived as pleasurable, then it's teshuvah. Right? So he says here, kadei laharoig, the double-edged sword. He's using the word laharog, to kill. Gufot hachitzonium, the extraneous forces, shenasu levush l'chayse shebetibos. They become the garments of vitality. Ve'oila achayit mehem. And now, once you invested energy, a person was so invested, it was something that was selfish or bad. Now he's investing it in something that's good. So now he's channeled that energy. Now the Alter Rebbe is going to say something else. If you look in Kabbalah, you ever heard of the book Reshit Chachma? And ever heard of that book before? No, Steph? You kind of know these.
Probably.
It's a book. It's a book of Musar. I mean, this book. I have it in the show if you want to read it. This book cuts you to pieces. You do this is going to happen. I mean, it talks. So if you look in Kabbalah and different midrashim and everything else, it talks about the tremendous, the tremendous negative impact that happens when a person has a wasteful emission of seed. I think we spoke about it last time, that only Yaakov and Elio never had any waste. One of the questions asked, if it's such a terrible avera, how come it doesn't say it in the Torah? If you open up the book of Leviticus, it talks about who you're not allowed to marry, right? I mean, you got some crazy there. You can't marry your sister, you can't marry your mother, you can't marry an animal. It goes to all these people, right? I mean, you're saying all people, and not people too. Say you're saying all that. I mean, just you couldn't throw that in. What, you're short on paper? How come it doesn't say it there? So, and he's going to say, and I'll get. I'm going to say that because of this. Every mitzvah and every avera, there's a beginning and an end user. Right? I have the leather, I put it on my hand, it's done. No matter what you try, you can't take away that mitzvah. Right? And same thing with the avera. Once you've done it, you've done it. There's nothing you can do to reverse it. So in the averas of forbidden relationships, you have the two parties that are, like it says in English, what the saying, takes two to tango. What happens if afterwards a person regrets it? Too bad, right? Let's say a person is with somebody they shouldn't have, and there's a child, and the guy regrets it. Okay, too bad. Meaning you can't reverse it. Now the Rebbe is going to say over here, but because its wasteful emission never finds an end user, so therefore you sort of it remains an eternal selfish deed, just like a person ate something they shouldn't have. You can do teshuvah, so too with this you can do teshuvah. That's why it's not in there, because those averos in the book of Leviticus are mitzvahs that there's no coming back from. Let's read. Therefore, the wasteful emission of seed is not mentioned in the Torah. In the list of forbidden coercions. Although they can read in Kabbalah, shechamur, although they're much more stringent. But Regodol avono, and the punishment is much greater. As far because the level of impurity the person creates, when it's exceedingly great, even more than cohabiting with a person they're not allowed to. According to Kabbalah, it explains that masturbation is worse than sleeping with somebody you're not allowed to. It's worse. So if it's worse, how come it doesn't say it? It's Sirak. Because again, we're talking about over here. The reason why we're talking about over here how to rectify something we did wrong. When a person is with somebody he shouldn't, what did he do? He took some of his energy and he invested it. He gave it to someone else. He can't get it back. That's it. You can feel bad, but you can never get it back. So let's say a person feels very bad. There's nothing you can do about it. I heard a story.
So you can't do tshuva for that.
I mean, it's limited.
Yeah.
Because teshuva means
physically limited.
Well, teshuva means that you invested your energy, and now you're sort of retracting it because you ate something you shouldn't have. God forbid, right? Let's say, right? Now what you're doing is you're retracting. You're taking out that energy you put into the chocolate cake, and now you're going to redirect it. But with a forbidden cohabitation, you gave some of that, right? Let's say, I'll tell you a story. This is a story I know. We know someone, and I'm not going to say who or anything else because some of you guys know this person.
Dennis?
What?
Nothing.
Dennis. Yeah. By the way, I said the word menace to somebody, a young person. Says, well, is that a made up word? Like, it's not a made up word. Like, menace?
The hashtag in front of it.
It's like, hi, making the word. So there's a person I know. The day we're in Israel, right? And there were 3 siblings. Two of the siblings had their bashert, right? They were in love. They're going to get married. One sibling didn't. So one sibling told the other sibling, "Oh, we have to go back to America because our father is going to get deported. He's sick, something like that." And the other and they had to leave Israel. And this person, her spouse or soon to be spouse was in the army, so he couldn't leave. So they came back, and the woman married someone else, and she didn't have to marry. She said, "I remember walking to the chuppah crying. I knew I didn't." Right?
Yeah, that confused me.
Okay, so there are 3 siblings,
sisters?
3 sisters.
Okay.
2 of them had their person they knew they were going to marry. One sister.
In this trip, they had found their.
No, they lived in Israel for a while. They went to a bunch of people. So one sister didn't have anybody.
The
Third, so she got jealous. So she made up a story that the father was sick or the father was something had to go back to the United States. So one of them, the spouse wasn't Israeli, so they were able to go back. The second sister, the boyfriend was Israeli, so he couldn't leave because he was in the army. So she came back and she married someone else. She lived with this person for 20 years. And she says, when I went to marry the first person, I knew it was wrong. I was crying. And then she ended up bumping into her boyfriend from many years ago. They got divorced, they got married, and they lived happily ever after. The crazy thing is, when the sisters, the parent died, so they're going through like the papers. Oh, imagine you almost got deported, or you was sick and was died. The other sister said that never happened. It's like, what do you mean it never happened? You told me. Oh, I only said that because I wanted you to come back. I didn't want to be alone. Could you imagine? This sister ruined. I mean, obviously it had to happen by Sharon and everything else. Why?
Dysfunctional
and you can never get those years back, right? They were invested. You can't get those. That's why it says it's always important that we have our heads screwed on straight. There's a woman who wrote a book. She was a hospice nurse, and she says in that book, no one says, "I wish I spent more time in the office." Doesn't mean you have to work, obviously, but you always have to make sure we know what's important. Anyway, so getting back to what we're saying over here. So when a person invests his energy and gives it to someone else, and that person is the wrong person, you can't get that back. You can feel terrible. You can't get it back. As opposed to a selfish act, you eat the wrong thing. You do the wrong thing. You can rectify it. So he's saying over here, Elosh, imkein yasit shuva mi'ava rabba kol kach, lest he repents with such a great love. And so you really need a tremendous teshuvah where the sin becomes the merit, which means that again your place of standing where you were before is motivating you to be a better person. Let's learn the note. Mipnei. So why can't you do a good enough teshuvah if a person is with a partner he shouldn't be? Let's. It says over here because one has an end user, one doesn't. What's without getting into all the Kabbalistic text? Okay. Now I just want to finish the chapter in this in this class. Now Uvizeh Yuvan, end of the note. Uvizeh Yuvan. Now we can understand Maimer Razal, what the Gemara says. The Gemara says in Chagiga, Shakti Chagiga, Ezahu Me'avet. What is crooked? Shalo yuchal taken. Some things that are crooked you can't fix. Every sin pretty much you can do teshuvah. Everything can be rectified, except if your actions have a irreversible reaction. A person drives drunk and they feel terrible. There used to be a woman's prison on Sheridan 27. How long do you live here? You live here for a long time. You remember that prison, Sheridan 27? All the way down in Sheridan.
Yeah, there's always been a prison down there.
Huh?
There's always been like prisons down there.
Yeah, but not anymore. Not anymore. There used to be a federal prison there. So Cyril and the woman would go there. They would give Hebrew classes, and they would do holiday programs there. That was one of the things that Cyril and the ladies in the community would do. But then they closed the prison, so it was a big hit. People would call my wife, "Oh, can I come this time?" It was a big people really. No. People in the community wanted to go visit these women in the prison.
Jewish women?
Jewish women in prison. Jewish women in prison. And a lot of these women in the prison, why were they there? And some of them, and Cyril told me, these women, a lot of the women weren't like crazy or maniacs. Oh, one time I drank too much and I killed a person. And there were a few of those stories. And you could feel 100% terrible and remorse and everything else, but
yeah, I guess that's the tshuva though. Like, being in prison or like serving your time would not be considered tshuva.
It's interesting you bring that up. Judaism, we don't. Torah, we don't believe in prison. Torah doesn't believe in prison. So the Torah believes in whatever you got to do, you do it. Now, the only thing similar to long-term prison is exile.
Exile.
But that's not prison though.
Yeah.
Exile is if a person kills someone accidentally, meaning not that he was driving a car. No, that's not accidentally, because driving a car is inherently dangerous. Accident means a person was climbing up a ladder and he slipped, fell downward, and it killed the guy. Climbing upward is not dangerous. Going down is, right? If a person like lifted up the axe, going up with an axe is not dangerous. Coming down is. So if the metal flew off the handle on the way up, he goes to exile. It's a but he would just live in another city, which you might say big deal. None of us are from Pembroke Pines, except for Eric. But Eric's a snob. He's a local. But in those days,
when I moved here, I had inspection on the roof, and they're like, "Listen, you have a couple pieces. If it's gonna be a hurricane here, and somebody gets into an accident, you'll be in trouble."
yeah, they always do that. It's scary. I once had a plumber here, so you have to change all your valves. And why? Because if someone shakes on it, and someone pulls on the valve, it'll break. I'm like, who's gonna pull on the valve? The kids. I'm like, I don't know what kids you have. My kids don't just pull on the valve. Oh, you have to redo all your pipe. I'm like, okay, get out. Then his boss called me up. So what do you think? I said, I think your guy's a jerk. He was like, I'm telling you, like, it's like, idiot. I know I'm a rabbi and I don't know my way around tools, but that's stupid. I mean, my God. Anyway, so there's certain things you just can't fix. Or that comedian. He says, if you're fat, you can get, surgery. If a big nose, you can get surgery. Pretty much anything you can fix with surgery, but you just can't fix stupid. you know what I'm talking about, right? Anyway, so when a person does an act that has a consequence, it's irreversible. Or you can feel terrible, but it's irreversible. So let's say a person with someone he shouldn't, and that woman gives birth. The kid's a mamzer. You know what a mamzer is?
Bastard.
What's a bastard?
Illegitimate?
No, that's not illegitimate.
Outside of what is sanctioned. So only if the wife is married,
So if a woman
or if it's incestual.
So if a woman is not married, the child is illegitimate, but it's not a bastard. Meaning, a mamzer is not allowed to marry anybody, only another mamzer. It's a very, very bad thing to be. A mamzer.
What is it again?
A mamzer. If a woman is married
And you haven't.
and she has relations with someone else, another man, she has a child, it's a mamzer.
Or a family member.
Well, right.
That's also a mamzer.
A mamzer is also considered like the part of incest.
I'll have to look that up.
I know that for a fact. I learned that this week.
Wait, where in Kedushin? In the Gemara?
In Daf Yomi.
Daf Yomi? All right. So,
Is there mamzers in the Torah? Is there any mamzer?
like a person we know, it's a mamzer?
Yeah.
A personality, it's a mamzer? Well, in the Torah, no. In the Gemara, probably.
In order to give the example.
Right. So you know what a Jewish curse is? Because Jewish curse, because there's no bad words. But if you want to degrade somebody, you call him mamzer ben nida. A mamzer ben nida. That's like tamei of tamei. That's like the worst. The Jewish nida, when a woman when a woman menstruates, she's a nida. She's tamei. So calling someone a mamzer ben nida is like the worst curse. So Jewish, and we're not good at coming with curses. You got to go to the Arabs.
Can it even happen?
Huh?
It can't happen.
No. You should know, by the way, on the side.
When a woman is in Nida, she can.
Right? No, yeah. So, by the way, since you brought it up, I'll tell you a very fascinating medrash.
Abraham.
Yeah. So what happened was, Avram's neshama was a crazy neshama. In fact, Avram's neshama was such a powerful neshama that the attribute of chesed, of kindness, complained to God that Avram took away his job. Even God complained to Avram. He says, God complained to Avram. He says, you do chesed. I mean, that's my thing. You took my thing. Because God is kind. So Avram's neshama was, unbelievable. So it says the prosecuting angel. Because remember, Hashem created the world. We learned in chapter 6. Everything's a balance, right? one opposite the other. So if something's too good, then it throws out of whack the balance. So the prosecuting angel went to God and said, "We can't let this guy come down. There's no way. He's too good." So they made a pshara. Pshara is a compromise. That Avram, what the heck? It's my mother-in-law. I know she's scary, but you won't harm me. My mother-in-law only harms me. Yeah, okay. Only I have to be scared of my mother-in-law. Yeah, exactly. So they made a compromise that Avram would be born to the most wicked people of the generation. Terach and his wife is Absala. I can't remember the word. I can't remember the name. And he would be born under miraculous circumstances. That when his mother, no, Yocheved is Amram's wife. Yocheved is Moshe's mother. So the name of Avram's mother is not in the Torah; it's in the Midrash. So he would be born, he would be conceived when she was a nida, which naturally is impossible. But because a woman is tameh, so being conceived in impurity to the leading idol manufacturers of the generation, I mean, we would set Avram so far back, he'd be in such a disadvantaged position. If he can come out of that, okay. And Avram did. His own father tried to kill him, or gave him over to be executed.
That's what killed Haran's father.
That's what killed Haran.
That's
Haran.
what killed
Lot's father. Yeah.
Haran.
Right. Saying so that's how great Avram is. So when you see in last week's Torah portion and this week's Torah portion, Hashem going crazy over Avram, I know he's the best and everything. Now you know why. Avram's the kid who comes from the projects, right? Who had no reason, everyone counted him out. Everyone thought he'd be a nobody.
Rabbi Gordon mentioned that the reason why Chesed was Abraham so represented Chesed in his life is because he represented God, and that's the attribute that needed to, more than anything, we need to overtake him more than he could overtake it.
Right. So God by definition is kind, right? That's why the first attribute of his creation is Chesed.
Like Chesed overtook Abraham more than Abraham could overtake.
But that's why that last week's parsha, the Akedah, the binding of Isaac on the altar, was such a great test.
It was an amazing test.
Because the prosecuting angel went to God and said, Abraham's serving you out of habit. That's his personality. Doesn't really love you. He's just a nice guy.
But it's just a trick.
So God says, Avram. No. So you want to see? All right. So you should know, by the way, the whole conversation with Avram was such a fanatical Jew. God says to Avram, okay, take him down. So what are you talking about? You told me to take him up.
I just said take him up.
Take him up. So put him down. He says, but I already made a bracha. Can I just make a little cut? I don't want to say God's name in vain. So God says to him, listen, Avram, it's my name. Don't worry about it. I'm telling you.
Wasn't it all a trick? Because he didn't say go slaughter him. He said just take him up.
The
trick was to take him up.
Right. Exactly. Yeah, it doesn't. Exactly.
Yeah.
Now the word olah means a burnt offering, but the word olah means up, because the entire animal is up on. Yeah. So God was playing with him. Yeah. That's. I mean, if you learn the midrash about Avram, you understand just how great he was. Because remember, Avram is the self-made man. That's who he is. He's a self-made. He doesn't have. Yitzchak has Avram. Yaakov has Yitzchak. Everyone has somebody, except for Avram. Avram accomplishes everything on his own. So he's a person that came from nothing and became. That's why he is. That's why God tells him, "From you will be blessing for the whole world. You are the father of all the nations." I mean, Avram gets blessings like, Avram is. I got to tell you, he's Avram, right? Anyway, so let's finish off. Even if when a person does something with irrevocable consequences, even if he does teshuvah, you can never elevate it, because once the person gives over that energy, Once he gives that energy over to impurity, and it's embedded, you can't take that back. Now you might say that's harsh, but that's the reality. You got to live with the consequences of a reaction. So when you do something good, no one can take that away from you. That's it. Once you did the mitzvah, you did the mitzvah. Over. But it's also on the other side. When a person invests something in he shouldn't, you can't. Now, mi'achar why it says shekvar yado la'olam hazvan slabish v'guf basar v'dam. Why? Because here a guy was with somebody he shouldn't, and he invested with somebody he shouldn't, and now that investment now is paid dividends in the form of an illicit child. That's it. Now, nothing you can do about it. But this is kind of the extreme. Next chapter after that is gonna get into a little bit more common stuff like food, right? What happens if you eat something you're not supposed to eat? Should we start the next chapter? Yeah.
I'm all for it.
Yes. Want to start the next chapter? Okay, so we'll start the next chapter. Okay, so stop the class. I'm just like stop it, and I'll start a new video. This way I can